We welcome to the source registered dietitian and Diabetes Canada expert Jenna Walsh. Jenna, talking about diabetes, the mental and physical stress that people with a diagnosis face can be a real challenge to deal with.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the pieces that we look at is that diabetes management encompasses a lot of moving pieces, a lot of different factors, including nutrition, thinking about when we're eating, what we're eating, how much, movement, as well as medications, and then also monitoring our blood sugars. So we are finally really taking more focus on what that toll looks like. We have a diabetes distress scale now that really is a validated tool to look at that. We have an entire chapter in our clinical guidelines on diabetes and mental health. So it's definitely an important factor.
You mentioned that term, diabetes distress, and that is a real, actual symptom.
Yeah, absolutely. When we consider ourselves, if we're not living with diabetes, we can eat and go about our day without much thought. Someone living with diabetes, every bite that they take, how much movement and when and the intensity that they're doing, they have to consider. They have to consider different medications when they're taking them, as well as if they're measuring their blood sugars. Being out in public, for example, if they're using a finger monitor, they're taking that out in public and having to do and carry it around. So we really want to look at, how can we normalize diabetes for them? How can we simplify it, right? So that's often where a flash glucose monitor can come in. It's on there for a good 2 weeks. We're getting 24 hours worth of information, and it's a very simple, discrete scan. So in terms of that burden we can see in the distress, it can be really helpful to alleviate and simplify.
Now, you say this is on them for 2 weeks. Is this something that they visit their doctor and ask for?
So it's typically prescribed through their physician or care provider, absolutely, and received through the pharmacy. A CDE can help them place it. People can place it on at home. It's very, very simple. We do suggest, right? There's a lot of information. So we talked about that's a benefit. We get 24 hours worth of data. And quite simply, what we want to make sure is that they're understanding all of the factors that might be contributing to, either high blood sugars, maybe a low blood sugars, or within target. So not just the food, but perhaps, for example, their stress, how they slept, their activity that day, as well as when they've taken their medications. So it can be a really, really useful tool.
You are a registered dietitian. What are some of the ins and outs for someone new to the diabetes diagnosis?
Yeah, absolutely. The main thing I like people to know is the idea that we assume with a diabetes diagnosis is, oh, I can't have carbs, I can't have my potatoes, I can't have bread. The simplest thing that we want to do is find a way that they can eat and they can move and live their life in a way that's still enjoyable, but keeps them at the lowest risk for complications. And again, that's where with monitoring, I actually like people to first have that sensor on and go about their normal routine so they can understand how everything they're doing is affecting their body. Everybody's body is different. The foods they prefer culturally, the foods they afford, what they're comfortable cooking, it varies so much. And it's more important for it to be individualized and make sense for them.
Where can people turn to find some of this information?
Yeah, absolutely. The lovely part with Ontario is we have diabetes education centers or teams throughout the province that's covered by OHIP. Hopefully, they also have a care provider, so that's a great place to start. You can find lists of certified diabetes educators on the CDE website, and as well, Diabetes Canada has a slew of information, recipes, nutrition management, and of course, if they're interested in a flash glucose monitor, the Freestyle Libre has a fantastic website as well.
Jenna Walsh, thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us.
Thank you for having me.